All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we get into some Yankees off-season updates. We already got updates on the Yankees team after the World Series debacle, so we're going to talk about that for a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight that's supposed to happen, take two. We got what else we got here? Got a little bit of a situation in the LPDS universe I want to address and hopefully come to an amicable ending. And I'll get into what I mean by that in the junction. And we got a great Nic Cage fact. All that coming up right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to the Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti, the show that talks about nothing but tries to find the lessons and everything. We also try to have a good time doing it. Try to have a good time doing it, not fav. I don't know why I said fav. That's not even a word. Hope everybody had a good week. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of chaos for some people. A lot of celebrating for some other people. I had a pretty good week. It was long. It was one of those weeks that like nothing bad was going on for me, but it was just a lot of stuff going on. It was long. Each day was tiring, in a good way. Get some progress done in life. But I am happy that it's over, and I'm happy we have the Veterans Day weekend that you guys get to enjoy or got to enjoy this weekend. This is obviously being recorded before the Veterans Day holiday, but happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. And just a quick clarification that I like to do on these holidays. Veterans Day is for the living veterans that are in the military or were in the military. Memorial Day is for those who gave the ultimate sacrifice during their time in the military. They're no longer with us. I always appreciate when friends and family thank me for my service on Memorial Day and tell me happy Memorial Day. Thank you for what you do. I always appreciate it, even not on Memorial Day, whatever. But I'm not dead, so I don't. Memorial Day is not for people like me. Veterans Day is more so for people like me. I still get a little not uncomfortable, but I still have that sort of like imposter syndrome, like what the hell did I do in the military that deserves this thanks? But I'm trying to receive it a lot better these days instead of being awkward and weird about it. I appreciate people's appreciation and gratitude. So I'm trying to receive that better. But go out there if you know veterans out there that have done their time, even if it was the minimum amount of time in the military, they did the time. Give them a shout out, give them a thanks. If you don't know where they are, you can check your local Golden Corral or Chili's or Applebee's, because there's going to be a long line of them waiting for their free meal that we get offered every Veterans Day, which is awesome. I have to speak in defense of the majority of the military members, at least the ones that I know. They're not going out there. They're not joining the military, obviously, just for the free meal. If they are, you got to get help, fellas and ladies. But the majority of the people that are going to these free meal days at those establishments on Veterans Day are, to put it nicely, not the people I was friends with in the military, for the most part. And also, too, there's a lot of them that are getting forced to go by their dependopotamus spouses. And a dependopotamus, for those of you who don't know, are the spouses of military members who basically run their lives, even though they don't contribute much at all to the relationship. They wear the rank of their spouse, even though they're not really in the military themselves, and they act like they're making the sacrifices. Now, spouses make sacrifices. Military spouses do make sacrifices when their husbands or wives are out in combat and or have to do different trainings and be away from home and the family. Those are sacrifices. I'm not trying to take away from that, but there is a good majority of spouses out there that take advantage of their position as a military spouse, and that's one of them, is forcing their families to go stuff their faces at Golden Corral and demand their respect and honor as a military spouse when they're not really doing much of anything, and they don't even respect their own spouse. They hold everything over them. You're always away from the kids, and I have to be the husband or the wife by myself, or the mother or the father by myself. And I don't like dependopotamuses. I don't like dependopotami. I love military spouses that handle the sacrifice with dignity, have a loving relationship with their spouse, understand the magnitude of that dynamic. I love those people. All of my friends, the people I would consider friends, that are were from the military, that all those people, I'm trying to think. I can't think of any of them who have a dependopotamus spouse. So I'm thankful for that, and I'm sure they are too as well. But anyway, happy Veterans Day to the veterans out there. I'm sure I'll catch some heat for that from the dependa community, but that's fine because there's a high likelihood they can't catch me. Anyway, happy Veterans Day. I don't really have too much to say this week. So hopefully we'll keep it pretty short. I don't want to ramble too much about nothingness. Obviously, we want to keep this fun and entertaining, and also maybe provide some lessons, help people out, right? So I do want to talk about some Yankees updates, though. If you're a sports fan or a baseball fan, I'm sure you've seen these already. But for those who are not, I apologize up front that you have to keep listening to me talk about baseball and sports if you're not into it. I'm into it. I love baseball. I'm a diehard baseball guy. And it's not just because I'm a sports jock idiot, whatever. There's so much you can learn from sports about life, competition, communication, teamwork, all that stuff that I just love about competitive sports and specifically baseball. So I'm always going to find a reason to talk about my teams, or just the sport in general. So with that, couple of moves have been made, and or at least a move I think will be made based on some quotes I saw. So first things first, the big one is the Garrett Cole saga. Pitcher Garrett Cole, big time pitcher for the Yankees, their ace. I went off on one about Aaron Boone taking him out early in the World Series and all that, yada yada yada. He made that pivotal error where he didn't cover first base and all that, that part of the meltdown, whatever. Well, part of his contract that he got with the Yankees originally had an opt-out clause. And Creature, my friend the Creature, frequent guest of the show, he's the expert on the business end of baseball, how the contracts work, how trades work, all the front office stuff. I go to him for my information. So if I get this wrong, I Creature, come in the comments and correct me where I made a mistake here. I'm just going off of what I read and my understanding of the front office, business end of things. So part of his contract was this opt-out clause at this timeline. I forgot how many years this has been. He's been with the Yankees, 4 years, 5 years, I don't know. Where he can choose to opt out at this point, and then the Yankees have the chance to exercise their cancellation of the opt-out, but with that cancellation of saying, no, you can't opt out, but because of that, we're going to give you an extra year and an extra $36 million or something like that. So Garrett Cole exercised this option under the premise, what I can assume, to be his premise of, I'm either going to get extra money out of it, or I could go to another team and get more money. Now, I really think that it was his agent, Scott Boras, who put him up to this, because Scott Boras is notorious in the league now for being the agent that just tries to squeeze every single dime out of MLB teams for the people he represents, the players he represents. And initially, I can't blame him. We've had this conversation before, how I feel about contracts and players getting paid and what have you. But the past couple years, Scott Boras has created a reputation of himself as just being someone no team wants to work with. And I still don't understand how teams or how players continue to hire him or continue to keep him as their agent, because he has that stink on him now. He had a terrible season last offseason with all his free agents that he represented getting garbage contracts because they were asking way too much. And they were overvaluing themselves. Well, he was overvaluing them to teams, and teams weren't having it this time around. Blake Snell was one. Jordan Montgomery was one. I'm trying to think of some others, but it was not a great situation. So I don't know why players still use him. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, so I think Scott Boras was the one behind, hey, exercise your opt-out, and you'll either get paid by the Yankees and have that stability and more money, or another team is gonna offer you that money anyway. You'll be good to go. Well, what I think happened was, the Yankees did not exercise their opt-out pushback, their cancellation. They were pretty much like, we're not paying you that extra money for that extra year. You're 35 years old. You seem to be on sort of the decline. Yes, you got a Cy Young in 2023, but you're 35, so you're on the tail end of your career now. You didn't have a terribly great year this year. It was riddled with injuries, and it wasn't, you didn't have the command that you usually do. You weren't getting as many strikeouts. People were starting to hit you a little bit more. You were inconsistent. Still the ace of the team. That shows you how poor the pitching is for the team. But we'll take our chances with somebody else, and you can go take your chances with the rest of the league. And from there, what I think happened is Scott Boras put the feelers out to the other teams saying, hey, Garrett Cole, here's what we're looking for, this much money for this many years. And the teams all looked at the same information that the Yankees had and were like, he's not worth that much for that long anymore. He's 35 years old. He's on the back end of his career now. We're not giving it to him. So what Garrett Cole and his team ended up doing was essentially pulling back their opt-out. They're opting out of their opt-out and saying, just kidding, you called my bluff and I lost. I'll stick around for the agreed-upon contract. And the Yankees are like, yeah, you could stay for the standard contract that we have for 4 more years or whatever it is, and you'll be good to go. So long story longer, really, because I blab. Garrett Cole is on the team, no changes whatsoever. Still on the contract that he's got. He's not leaving. He's still getting paid a decent amount of money. He's still their number one guy right now. And now I feel bad a little bit for Garrett Cole because, like I said, I have a feeling this is more so his agent, Scott Boras, pulling the strings on this. But nobody talks about it that way. The reporters and journalists in the sports world don't ever talk about it that way, at least in the headlines and the social media blurbs. They'll put it in the fine print of their articles that it was Scott Boras is the agent and he's the one running the show. They run the negotiations with the front office. The agents do. It looks like, though, Garrett Cole did it himself, so he kind of looks like a boob. He looks like a Costanza now in that episode of Seinfeld where Costanza goes into his boss's office and has this whole angry meltdown of why he's quitting, and this guy's a loser and he's a fatso and he doesn't want to work for him anymore and he hates him and he's out. And then he realizes what a mistake he made that night at Jerry's house, and Kramer tells him, just go back in like nothing ever happened. And he tries to go back in the next day or the next week as if nothing ever happened. Obviously, it didn't work out for him because the boss is like, no, you're a loser. Get out. You quit. But this is what it looks like Garrett Cole did, according to the headlines, is Garrett Cole put his, you know, put his dick on the table, for lack of a better term. And the Yankees are like, get that off my table. We're good. And then he's like, just kidding. I never said that. I never said anything. I was always on the team. Nothing changes. Same contract, same team, same pinstripes, everything. No problem. So I kind of feel bad for him a little bit in that regard. But he also has the power to tell Scott Boras to stick it and be like, hey, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to get that much money. I am 35 years old. I'm just coming off all these injuries, and I'm not a great year. I did make a giant blunder that's fresh in the minds of all these MLB teams. He also made a couple other mistakes in the World Series. I was looking back at the footage because that's what I do, like a psychopath. And he made some mental errors that were not as costly as that not covering first. But again, it's fresh in the minds of the MLB teams out there of looking at this guy and all the other factors around. He could have taken the step back from his ego and pride and desire to make a ton of money and just say, hey, Boras, let's not rock the boat. It's not going to end well for us. He could have done that. So I give him a little blame for that. But I also know historically Scott Boras is a monster with this stuff. So I know he was heavily influential in these decisions. Anyway, Garrett Cole's back where he didn't really go anywhere. Anthony Rizzo, on the other hand, it looks like the Yankees have exercised their opt-out option on his contract, where I believe, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe they pay him $6 million next season to go be a free, and he's off the team. The contract is now done. Now, if they didn't do that, they would have had to pay him his option year of one more year at $25 million or whatever it was supposed to be, because this was like his option year. And the Yankees are like, no, we'd rather pay the $6,000 and open up that 19 or $6 million, open up that $19 million to go put on somebody who's not over the hill. That could help us win a championship, as opposed to paying this guy $25 million or whatever it was to basically be non-player. I like Anthony Rizzo. He's a good team guy. He's a very smart and savvy baseball mind. He used to be an incredible first baseman defensively, but he's over the hill. He's been on the tail end for a couple years now, basically since he got to the Yankees. He's had continual declines in performance. I also, no offense to him, I just don't think he was that good to begin with. I don't think he was a $25-30 million a year guy to begin with. If you look at his numbers and performance when he was with the Cubs, again, great team guy, really represented the Cubs. He was like the face of the Cubs during their heyday when they came back from their curse. But if you look at his numbers, they weren't anything to write home about in an extravagant way. He wasn't putting up Soto numbers consistently or Judge numbers consistently. He was all right, and he was a great fielder and a good team guy. So I can see why the Yankees made that decision. I agree with it. It definitely should have happened. I think we talked about it previously where I said I should think it should happen because the Yankees didn't have a first baseman this year. They had Cabrera playing a little bit, LeMahieu playing a little bit, John Birdie played a little bit, Rizzo played a little bit. Like, you're paying him $25 million and you're getting a third of a season out of him, a quarter of a season out of him. And sure, he played in the playoffs and the World Series, and he got some hits. Again, they were all basically bases empty singles because he was playing with broken fingies and he couldn't hit the ball. But he was on a serious decline this year. And then when he did play, his fielding was very bad compared to what we expect of him, what he's done in the past. So I like the move. I wish him well. I really liked Anthony Rizzo on the team as a team guy, but he is of no real true value to the team other than that. Maybe bring him on as a coach, like a player coach. He could be a DH every once in a while or play every once in a while. but just be more like a coach and a dugout guy, cool. If he wants to do that, cool. But he obviously doesn't. He wants to keep playing, and he thinks he's still got it. So I hope he does well wherever he goes. He was a good guy. The last person I want to talk about, because I don't really have any other updates. I haven't seen any other updates since. Besides Soto, basically every team is interested in him. And I don't think he's going to sign with the Yankees. I just don't think the Yankees are going to offer him the money he wants. And I think he'll be overpaid. And if I were him, I'd take the overpayment. Teams are going to offer him a shit ton of money, even though he probably doesn't he's not that good to deserve $700 million, $600, $700 million contracts. But some team is going to offer him that money, and he's going to take it, and he should take it. So I don't think he's going to be there. But I heard a quote. Somebody was asking Brian Cashman about Gleyber Torres' future with the Yankees, it seemed like. And the quote just basically said, this is from Brian Cashman, the general manager of the Yankees. He said, we were happy with Gleyber Torres's performance and effort with the while he was with the team. And he talked in the past tense. He didn't say anything like, we've been happy with Gleyber Torres as a part of this team, and we haven't made any decisions yet. All he said was, we were pleased with the effort and performance of Gleyber Torres when he was with the team. Now, no official decisions have been made at the time of this recording, but you can make an assessment, a reasonably confident assessment, that the Yankees are not looking to re-sign Gleyber Torres. And again, you know how I feel about it. That's absolutely the right decision. He peaked a couple years ago. He had a very good last month of the regular season and playoffs, offensively only. Defensively, he was still not good. Too inconsistent. And he's not going to get any better. He peaked already. And that's been very obvious in his play the last couple of years. Not just 1 year, the last couple of years. And I thought they should have traded him last year and last All-Star break at the trade deadline this season, because I thought they were going to have less value as he continued to perform poorly. Now they're getting nothing for him. Now if they release, his contract's up, so they're just going to let him go and get nothing for him, and that's it. So that angers me, because they blew that opportunity to get some value out of him. But it's also a smart move to not re-sign him, because they have Jazz Chisholm, who I know batted .08 in the playoffs, but he's a second baseman. Put him at second base. He's not a third baseman. And now you open up the door to get a real third baseman in there, because you're not spending money on Gleybe and you're not spending money on Rizzo, and you open the door to get a real first baseman in there. Now, I hope that first baseman is not Pete Alonso, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees made a move on Pete Alonso. So we'll see how that goes. I also wouldn't be surprised if they made a move on Alex Bregman of the Astros, because I believe his contract's up, and he's a good third baseman. It would be a smart move for the Yankees to make a play for Alex Bregman. I don't want it to happen because I don't like that guy, but he is a good player. So we'll see how that goes. That's the update so far. I'm actually surprised we've had this many updates and this much action in the offseason already. We'll see how the rest of the offseason goes. This is trades and deals times, folks. Some people who are baseball fans, this is their favorite time of the season. Trades, deals time. So we will keep you posted on that if you're interested. If you're not, I'm still going to keep you posted on it anyway, because that's what I do here. All right, moving on. Tyson, Jake Paul fight. Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight. I got a couple requests from people that are interested in this fight and getting my take on it. And I don't know what to think of it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mike Tyson, the renowned boxer and angry guy, psychopath boxer back in his heyday, is scheduled to fight Jake Paul, the YouTuber, and who's also a boxer now. Now they were supposed to fight back in July, but that got pushed because Tyson, I forgot what happened to him, got sick and he couldn't fight. So I think it's supposed to be soon now in November. I don't remember exactly the date, but I don't know what to feel about it. It's a good money move for Jake Paul. It's a good money move for Tyson. He's going to get paid a lot too. So I understand the business end of why they're doing it, and this is what Jake Paul does. He creates these ridiculous boxing matches, and he gets paid millions for it. Even if the matches stink, it doesn't matter. A lot of times they do stink, but he generates that publicity and that income from it. So on that end, I get it, and I'm here for that. Got it. He's doing a good business thing, a savvy business thing. On the other hand, I'm a Tyson fan. I I've watched a lot of documentaries on him. I watched his old fights, even when the ones I was too young to kind of comprehend back when they were actually happening. I'm a Tyson fan. I think he got wrongfully accused of the assault stuff that he went to jail for. I think that was actually proven too after the fact. Um, and then after that, his boxing career kind of took a downturn. But in his heyday, there was nobody scarier than Mike Tyson. You could absolutely say there are better boxers and more successful boxers out there. There's plenty of those that you could say, Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather from a pound for pound success story, rate. It's Floyd Mayweather is arguably the best, even though I don't like him either. Um, but nobody was better and scarier to watch than Mike Tyson in his heyday. And he was like a possessed maniac. I think he was actually hypnotized by his coach who took him in when he was a kid. And that's what made him like a completely different animal when it came to boxing. Even during press conferences, go look at old Mike Tyson interviews and press conferences. He's a menace. He's an absolute menace. And then go look at him when the boxers are touching gloves and the ref is giving them, the spiel before each match. Look at how he stares down his opponent and looks right through him. And you could tell in his eyes, you can see it in his eyes. He knows his goal is I'm going to kill you. It wasn't just I'm going to win this fight. It's I'm going to kill you. And that's what made him so dangerous and so successful. I think many of the boxers that went up against him were legitimately afraid for their lives because he was so dangerous. And that's the Tyson I like. And that's the Tyson I want to see. But the guy's 60 plus years old or whatever he is. Now, you watch the videos of him training and he's still quick for that age. He's still scary, powerful for that age. You can certainly knock the shit out of me. No problem, even at this age. But boxing's a dangerous game. Okay. And even though I guarantee you he's more skilled and obviously more experienced than Jake Paul is at boxing, he's still a 60-year-old guy who's going to be taking punches to the face and the head and the liver. And it doesn't matter how experienced you are, your body handles that differently as a 60-year-old than it does as a 20-year-old. I think he won the heavyweight when he was like 18, 19, 20. Like something. He was basically a kid still when he won the heavyweight title. When he was like 14, he looked like a 30-year-old man. Just a scary guy. So from that perspective, I don't want this fight to happen. Because I don't want him to get hurt or have something bad happen to him. Also, I want him to win and he's going up against a 26-year-old kid, and he's a 60-year-old. So if he doesn't have the juice anymore, which is likely, that's any 60-year-old, like he could be a freak. We saw him fight Roy Jones Jr. I forgot who it was in an exhibition a couple years ago when he was in his 50s, and it was an okay fight. I think they came to an agreement beforehand of like keeping it, keeping it easy, not a lot of headshots and whatever. But he's a 60-year-old guy. It's a different animal at that point. Even for guys like him, even for freaks of nature like him. So from that perspective, I wish he didn't do the fight, and I'm not looking forward to that portion. But just the idea of like getting to see Tyson fight again, that's also awesome. So I don't know how I feel about it. I think if Tyson were to win, like it would have to be early. He would have to hit him with some devastating blows early and just rock his world. Because I think the longer you go in boxing matches, I don't know how many rounds they're going to be, and I don't know what other restrictions there are on this fight. But I think, the longer you go, the more rounds, the worse it is for Tyson because he's just older. Okay, he's going to get fatigued faster. He can't keep taking shots to the head at 60 years old. Even though Jake Paul is not nearly as good a boxer, he's a strong guy. It doesn't take, it won't take much for him in the 5th, 6th, 7th round to be able to land a couple of hard strikes on an older guy, an older, tired guy. So I'd like to see Tyson win. If it happens, it should happen early. It's got to happen early. Otherwise, it's not going to be great. But then again, too, Tyson's experience might be able to allow him to, get Jake Paul tired quicker and then use his experience in that regard because Jake Paul's now tired. His fundamentals are going to go out the window when you're tired. That usually happens. And he might be able to wear him out that way. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Jake Paul, at the very least, is going to be training for his cardio to last longer, knowing that he doesn't have the skills and experience that Tyson does in the boxing ring. So we'll see how that goes. I don't remember the date it comes out. It's supposed to be pretty soon, I thought. Maybe it's by the time this podcast airs. I don't know. But I don't even know if I'm going to watch it, honestly. I might rewatch it if I find out Tyson wins, or I'll watch the clip of him if he wins. Otherwise, I don't really want to watch because I have my idea of Tyson. I want to maintain that animal. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. We'll see how it goes. With that, we'll get into the good stuff. We'll step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right. Today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by Paulie's Plungers. Are you the kind of person who clogs the toilet regularly and spends countless hours and money trying to unclog your toilet with garbage plungers or having to call plumbers to do it for you? Well, now you can save all that time and money with a Paulie's Plunger. Paulie has clogged thousands of toilets, and after trying many creative ways to unclog them, he's finally created a revolutionary plunger that will unclog even the most heinous and treacherous clogs in just a few plunge pumps. The custom design creates a suction capability that's 10 times stronger than the blowhole of an orca whale. So you can rest assured that no matter how many bean burritos you take down last night at Lupe Tortilla, you'll have no problem ensuring everything goes down smoothly. So to get your Paulie's Plunger today, visit www.plungedaddy.com, and if you use the promo code TheToilet'sBroke, you'll get 29% off your plunger. Thousands of toilets clogged and unclogged by Paulie himself. Thousands. So you want to buy a product from somebody, buy it for somebody who's experienced in the world. Paulie is experienced in the world. Thousands of toilets. Anyway, what are we doing here? The Cage Fact. It has been announced. Now, by the time you guys listen to this, It's already going to be started. And for whatever reason, this announcement came out 2 days prior to the time of this recording. But it has been announced that there will be a Nic Cage film festival in New York City called Nicholas Uncaged. And it started November 8th, and it's running until January 2nd. And there's a lot of stuff there's going to be a bunch of stuff going on throughout that festival. And they're going to be screening 10 of his movies, and they're going to be screening them all in 35 millimeter film, which is right up his alley. If you're into film studies and cinema studies like that, that's a cool thing. I don't know anything about it, so it doesn't affect me too much in that regard. But it's a Nic Cage Film Festival in New York until the 2nd of January. I will try to go to it, depending on when I can get up to New Jersey over the holidays. I will make an effort to go to that, hopefully. We'll see how that goes. But they're going to be playing 10 Nic Cage films throughout that time. And they also said they're going to redo the festival later on down the road in different locations, possibly too. So the Nic Cage appreciation is growing. So I'm excited for that. But some of the films that they're going to be playing are, I believe, Adaptation, Con Air, Bad Lieutenant. I don't know if any of his independent movies that he did, like Pig or Joe or Mandy, are going to be played or not, or if it's just going to be more the big ticket movies that he made that they're just going to put on that 35 millimeter film. I don't know for sure because they didn't put a lot of information out, which is crazy to me because, again, the article, I'm recording this episode on 8 November. The article I read was from 2 days ago. That's when it was announced, 2 days ago. So that's just piss poor marketing for what will inevitably be, I don't know what I just said, inevitably be a giant success and a thing a lot of people want to go check out. So maybe that's what their mindset was. It's like, we don't need to do a lot of marketing. It's going to market itself. If that's the case, fine. But it already started. The film festival already started. 8 November. It's already out there. It's going. So if you're in New York, look it up on the internets. And if you're interested, go check it out. If you're not interested, check yourself. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to really make an effort to go if I can while I'm up in that area, if time allows. If not, I will keep my ear to the ground for when they're going to do it again somewhere else. So that's the Cage fact. Moving over to the Junction, spin the logo up. I don't have much. Really, two topics. The first is a little bit of a situation here at the LPDS universe at the compound that I'm dealing with. I don't even know how to start this. It involves the post office. Now, you know my feelings on the US Postal Service these days. It is the prime example of why I don't want the government running things for this country or running more things for this country, specifically like medical care and health insurance. Don't want the government touching that crap. Because as you know from hearing me bitch about the post office for years and years now, the post office is one of the simplest concepts of an operation you can have. One of the easiest things. It takes no extra thought on how to do this. Especially in this day and age with technology and automation and stuff like that. It's literally transporting paper from one location to another. that has an address on it. Now, it's easier to do now because everything is digital. You could put a barcode on the envelope to where it needs to go, and you scan it or whatever, and it pops up the location on your GPS, and then you can send that to the transfer station in that that region, and then those postal service workers, those mailmen and women, can take that, put the addresses in their GPS or know what their routes are, and deliver it pretty easily. It's not that difficult. I actually mapped it out myself in my spare time. It took me about an hour to map out a pretty robust system to get the mail from one place to another throughout the country pretty effectively. Okay? And I'm just one guy. And for years and years and years, the Postal Service has continued to fail us in so many different ways. They continue to fail themselves in so many different ways. They've gone bankrupt and filed for bankruptcy more than once. That's a failed business, okay? And luckily, and really unluckily, the post office, the mail is not nearly as important as it used to be. Because everything's digital now, you can still get your bills without the mail, without paper mail anymore. I don't get much important mail hardly ever anymore. And basically all the packages I get, those companies are where I get them from. They ship through FedEx, UPS, or Amazon. They go with the private side of the house because those guys got to figure it out way better than the post office, which is proof positive that the government basically ruins everything it touches. At least lately, over the past 20, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, they stink. So, you know my feelings on the post office. Well, my mom, sent me a birthday card last month. My birthday was the beginning of October. I don't talk about it on here. I don't celebrate it in a big, grand fashion and make you guys feel bad for not saying happy birthday or getting me. That's not my thing. So I didn't talk about it when it happened. But beginning of October is my birthday. Okay? My mother sent me a letter the week prior to ensure it got to me that week, birthday week, because she's a nice person. Okay? I have the letter here. It was sent out. It didn't leave New Jersey. I'm going to show you this in a second, but I'll show you it at the right time. It didn't leave New Jersey until 16 October. Okay? So my mom sent it out the last week of September. It didn't leave the state of New Jersey until 2 weeks after my birthday, basically. A week and a half after my birthday. So it just sat there in doing God knows what. I didn't get it. I don't know if there's a date on here when it actually came in the mail. I didn't get it until 3 November. Okay, so over a month from the time my mother sent it out to the time I received it, it took over a month to get here. Not a problem. I expected that. Even my mother called when I speak to my mother. When I spoke to her, I speak to her regularly. The one day I spoke to her on my birthday, actually, she said, "Hey, did you get your card yet?" I was like, "Nope." I go, "When did you send it?" And she said, "I sent it last week." I even joked to her. I said, "I hope it's a 40th birthday card because I'm not going to get it for 2 years, knowing the post office." And she laughed, and we both laughed, and then we hung up, and she probably realized, like I did too, it's like, I should have got him a 40th birthday card because the mail sucks. Ever since JPL2 retired from the Postal Service, it's gone to hell. And we all know that. We all know he was the linchpin holding it together over there. Well, I get this on 3 November. Okay. Now I get it. Stand by. I'll show you in a second. I get it in this package. If you're looking at YouTube land, I got it in this sealed plastic package. It's in the big letters. It says "We care." And then it goes on with this form on the little plastic bag. It tells you, "We sincerely regret the damage to your mail during handling by the Postal Service. We hope this did not inconvenience you. We realize your mail is important and that you have every right to expect it to be delivered in good condition. Although every effort is made to prevent damage to the mail, occasionally this will occur because of the great volume handled and the rapid processing methods which must be employed to ensure most expeditious distribution possible. We appreciate your understanding. Blah, 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 blah. Sincerely, your postmaster." No contact information whatsoever on there. Now, a couple issues I have with this right off the bat. First of all, rapid processing methods to assure most expeditious distribution possible. That couldn't be further from the truth. That could not be further from the truth. There is a reason why UPS, FedEx, DHL are all thriving, and Amazon, the new kid on the block comparatively, is also thriving compared to the post office, because you are anything but expeditious and rapid in getting the mail to people. Anything but. And there's a whole host of reasons for it. You're run by the government, so you're top heavy. You spend all your money on fake leadership roles for your boys that you hire in there to be postmaster generals and what have yous. And you hire the least qualified people of all time, and you pay them shit to do the job. So you get even less people that want to go do the job. So you have low recruitment numbers and then low IQ people doing the job that can't figure it out. I could go on and on and on about the issues with something that should be so simple and easy. So they lied about that. Then I look at the envelope. Now, I'm going to tell you before I show you, this is what was supposed to be in the envelope. Because I called my mom to let her know, hey, I got your letter. And I asked her, I said, hey, what did you put in the card? What was in the card? And she says, well, it was actually two cards in one. There was the big card, and then inside was a smaller card that it was silly and stupid. I thought you would laugh, so I bought it and I put it in there. And then inside that card was money, cash. I said, well, I didn't get that. She goes, what did you get? And this is what I got, folks. If you're looking, I got one card. No little card inside and no cash inside. Okay? That was gone. And the quote unquote damage that was done was really, if you look, they just opened the envelope. They opened the envelope, they took out the cards, they took out the mini card, probably tossed it, and then they took the cash out. And then they put it in that stupid plastic bag, sat on it for another 3 or 4 weeks, and then sent it down to me in Texas. That's what I got from the Postal Service. So not only did they prove me right in their snail's pace of a delivery, they also stole money. They stole my mail. They committed a federal crime within their own federal organization and stole my mail. They opened it, one crime, and stole another crime. And then lied about it, another crime, about it just being damaged. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I'm not letting this go. You know I have nothing better to do than to not let this go. And of course, I always go into this trying to be as good a leader as I can to make sure I get what I need without, being a total menace to society, because that doesn't help the greater good, obviously. So I want to be a good leader and practice what I preach. So obviously I want to be not nice, but effective about this. Like I always do. Again, war is a last resort. For me personally, and I think in all walks of life, war is and should be the last resort because war is hell. You saw when I went through with the Gatekeeper's Gambit, that operation, that conflict. You saw what I went through with Lowe's and the grill from a couple years back. War is hell. So naturally, I don't want to do that. But, and we're not quite there yet, but unfortunately, we could be getting close to conflict. Because I've been trying to reach out to the Postal Service this entire week. And they've been doing this little thing where I call and they don't answer, and then I call again and nobody answers, and then I call again and nobody answers, and then I leave a voicemail and nobody responds back, and I leave another voicemail. You know that whole like phone tag cat and mouse game that you have with other businesses all the time? That's what I got going on right now. So after 3, 4, I want to say 5 phone calls and maybe 3 voicemails. Only 3 voicemails because I didn't have the option after. I don't know if I forgot if they said the voicemail box is full or it just didn't give me an option, just hung up on me or whatever the robot does. Needless to say, I have not yet spoke to a human. And they have not given me the courtesy of a response yet in any way, shape, or form. Now, again, this is expected because their timeline of doing their job is delayed significantly for everything. You saw how long it took me to get this one simple letter. Really, it was supposed to be 2 cards in one, but it ended up being 1 card with no money. Over a month. So I expect this to be a long process. I still will be professional and tactful in my initial conversations with these people. But I consider this at this point, again, ever since JPL2, my grandfather retired from the Postal Service and broke the record for most consecutive days worked without taking a sick day, 30 straight years. He is the Cal Ripken of the post office. He is the Iron Horse. He's the Lou Gehrig of the post office. Nobody better. And I'm not joking, okay? He took vacations. He didn't work every day straight for 30 years. He had his weekend days off, his natural off days, and he had his vacation days that I don't think he took my father on any vacations. But, you know, he took the days off that he had allotted, but he never took off for sickness. He was never injured. He was never sick. In fact, when everybody else was taking off, he would pick up shifts. And we talked about this before. He was the Cal Ripken of the post office. And I'm not being hyperbolic or exaggerating or anything like that. This is what he did. He was every day he was supposed to work, he worked. And even on some days when he wasn't supposed to work, he worked, or he took a double shift. And this is back when he worked in New York City. He was walking his routes. His normal route was a 5-mile route. And when he did a double, it was 10 miles. With the bag over his shoulder. Walking. Neither rain nor sleet, no snow, no hail, whatever the stupid saying is that nobody follows in the post office anymore. He was it. He was the saying. Okay, the one that they have etched in the National Post Office Hall in New York City, the headquarters, the Postmaster General himself sits there, the patent of the post office, the general patent of the post office. That saying etched in there, that's my grandfather. That is JPL2. He is what that saying was about. He was the Iron Horse of the post office. I cannot state that enough. And when he retired, he got nothing but a shitty gold watch and a thank you for your service. And from that day forward, I considered the post office to be an adversary to me. Not an all-out war enemy, but like a Russia or a North Korea or an Iran. We're not fighting currently, and I'll be willing to talk with you to maintain the peace and trade and exports and what have yous, but don't cross me because you will go down. And now and the tensions are rising. Tensions are finally rising. This is the nation state. The post office is really the nation state enemy or adversary, of my world, of the LPDS universe. There's all these other little mini conflicts with very minor foreign powers or mini terrorist groups, if you will. But these are the big nation states. In America, we have the terrorist organizations we go after, the counterinsurgency crap and all that stuff. And then you have your big five, you like the big nation states these are the biggest threats to our sovereignty and our freedom and our security should we go to war with these people. And the post office is one of those big nation states for me, for the LPDS universe. So tensions are rising. And when you go to war with a nation state, it is not a simple special ops operation where you send your Tiger team out to take out the trash and you're back home by supper. This could be big. Okay? I'm not saying it's going to be, but if you look at the options, the spectrum of what it could be absolutely nothing. But if it's not nothing, it could be very big and bad. So I am going to approach this diplomatically. But I am not going to approach this in any sort of beta bitch boy mode. Okay? We will be diplomatic and professional, but they will know that I am not to be trifled with. We at the LPDS universe are not to be trifled with. So I will keep you posted. I am very hopeful that the updates are boring and that it just bubbles over and then nothing happens. I mean, it's an election year. This was an election year after all, so tensions rise and threats of war always rise up and ensue. We know how that goes every 4 years, so this could be very much that situation again with the post office. They're just getting a little aggressive, thinking that the LPDS universe just came off a conflict and we're vulnerable. Little do they know just how much time and effort I have and how much passion I have for stuff like this. So I will keep you all posted on how that goes. The last thing I want to talk about, obviously, we had an election last week. If you were living under a rock or if you were in a coma for the last couple weeks or months and you don't know what happened, Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris in the election. So he will be the next president of the United States come January of 2025. I will not be commenting or providing my opinions on really anything specific to it. I have a lot of opinions on reactions and responses from all sides and walks of life and why I think the outcome was what it was. And what can be done from here on out, what I think will be done from here. I'm not doing that stuff anymore. I'm really trying hard to not do that stuff anymore. The message I want to put out there to the people in general, and regardless of who you voted for. Now I understand. I try to do my best to understand where people are coming from and why they generate the feelings and the opinions that they do. And as we've discussed in the past, the politicians on both sides and the media on both sides ran their propaganda playbooks to turn each candidate into a monster for the opposition. Kamala Harris was Karl Marx reincarnate. Donald Trump was Hitler reincarnate. I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I'm saying. They created two monsters and ran this propaganda playbook to make us hate the other person and then hate everybody who liked the other person. So I understand why people feel the way they do. The anti-Trumpers are having meltdowns on social media. 4 years ago, the Trumpets were having meltdowns on social media. That's why that happens. I understand that. So I don't hate those people. I get why this stuff happens. What I don't like is the hypocrisy and how quickly people forget the past couple years, because in 2020, when Trumpy Bear lost, what was all the Biden supporters, what were they all doing on social media and in the public eye, and what were they doing? It's time to unite and heal as a country and come together finally with peace and come together and bring this country together and blah, 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 and heal and peace and unity. And then 4 years later, as soon as their team lost, because that's what it's become, their team lost, all hell's breaking loose. If you voted for Trump, screw you, F you, I'm going to kill you. I hate you. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're a monster. How can you support that and this and that? And just everything flipped. And the Trumpists were doing the same thing 4 years ago, and then they flipped to unity and peace and healing and healthiness and all this blah, blah, blah. So I really don't like the hypocrisy. That's what I really hate, the hypocrisy. And I hate how people react to others who share differing opinions than them. So really the message I want to spread is to actually be kind and empathetic to each other and stop with the hypocrisy. Separate from your emotions. You're allowed to have your emotions. They're valid, especially when you put yourselves in other people's shoes and understand why they got to where they are and their thought processes and their emotions. But you got to stop with the hypocritical reactions and responses. If you voted for Trump and you're happy, don't rub it in to the people who didn't vote for Trump and call them babies and tell them to get over it and stop crying and you suck and we're better than you and all that stuff. And if you voted for Kamala Harris, don't disown everybody that voted for Trump and think they're monsters and hateful and they're going to ruin this country and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Kamala Harris was a vice president for 4 years, and we did not become a communist dictatorship. Okay? Donald Trump was president for 4 years, and he didn't do any Hitler stuff. We didn't invade Poland. We didn't create camps. We didn't do any of that stuff. So understand that in the grand scheme of things, you're gonna be okay. Okay? And you can't associate people's values with their voting opinions all the time. You can't say, oh, you voted for Donald Trump, you have no values, you're immoral, you're a monster. Or if you voted for Kamala, you have no values, you're immoral, you're a monster. Stop it. Stop with the hypocrisy. Stop with the hating. And be kind and empathetic and understanding of this. Okay? Well, think about it this way. This is like the Yankees, the one team, the Yankee, 25-man roster, 30-man roster, whatever it is, 40-man roster in the regular season. They have to vote on a captain, and by the end of it, they vote for a captain, but half the team hates each other. And they forgot that it's not team Judge versus team, Volpe when it comes to who's going to be the captain of the team or whatever. It's the Yankees figuring out their leader to lead their whole team to success. That's what we are. We're one team, and we should be coming together to figure out together how we come up with our leaders to advance our cause, our prosperity, our freedom, our security, and all this stuff that's important to us as citizens of this country and people and humanity. And it's not the case right now. We've been pitted against each other to hate each other. And God forbid you don't vote for one or the other. You do your own thing. You're also a monster somehow too. By both parties, both sides hate you. So it's become a terrible situation, and it doesn't make any sense. And I hope people can take the step back and realize what's been going on by the politicians and the media doing this, running this playbook on us to get us to hate each other. And I hope we come together and we're empathetic and we realize that. I want to leave you with a quote here by Bill Bullard. Now, if you don't know who he is, I didn't know him either. He was a state senator in Michigan, I want to say. He died of cancer in 2020. Now, if you look it up, because he died in 2020 of cancer, he also died of COVID because it was 2020 and everybody was dying of COVID back then. So every article and thing you see is he died of COVID, also cancer. It was probably the cancer that got him, and maybe the COVID just kind of tipped him over. But he said, opinion is really the lowest form of human knowledge. It requires no accountability and no understanding. The highest form is empathy, for it requires us to suspend our egos and live in another's world. It requires profound purpose larger than the self kind of understanding. Now, what I believe he is explaining here in this quote is that opinions are fine. He's not saying if you have an opinion, that means you're stupid. But opinions require nothing more than how you feel about something. You don't have to be knowledgeable on the subject. You don't even have to be held accountable for your opinion on something. It's the lowest form. In the spectrum of knowledge, it's the lowest form. Because you don't need to do anything but say what you think about something. I know nothing about lacrosse, the sport lacrosse. No, I know nothing about it besides they have sticks with nets on them and they throw the ball into a goal. That's it. So my opinions on lacrosse, I don't like it. I think it's stupid. That opinion is based out of nothing more than my feelings towards lacrosse. I've never watched a full game of it before. I never tried to play it before. I don't know anything about the rules. I don't know the pace of play. I know nothing about it. I have no knowledge of it. All I know is I don't like it. I think it's stupid. That's what I think he means. That's what I interpret his assessment of opinions, the lowest form of knowledge. I have enough knowledge about the sport. I know it's a sport with helmets and nets and balls and sticks, and I don't like it. That's it. And it doesn't matter if I'm wrong. There's no accountability. Accountable to what? It's just my opinion. It's not hurting anybody. It's not illegal to have an opinion. No accountability. No nothing. And the highest form is empathy because it requires you to take the time to understand where somebody's coming from in their thoughts and their worlds. It's also one of the hardest things to do, especially in times like this, because you're so emotionally driven by things, especially if you didn't get your way or your team lost or whatever. You're emotional wrecks. I get it. I've been there, and it's very difficult to step out of that world to empathize and try to understand where others are coming from. But I'm asking you here, the focus of this situation and moving forward, because a lot of people are just going to forget about this and they're going to recycle the same crap in the future and wonder why nothing's getting better because they're not doing anything different to get better. That's why. So I'm asking you to empathize with the people that you disagree with and have a little bit more understanding and put yourself in their shoes to find out why they feel the way they do. And don't just blindly dismiss them, and don't chastise them for something and then go out and do the same exact thing later on and be a hypocrite. And drop the hateful responses, drop all the negativity and the shit. We're going to be okay, folks. All right? We're going to be fine. Don't worry. Control the controllables inside yourself, and don't worry. I assure you, we will make it through just like we did 4 years ago, just like we did 8 years ago, just like what we have continued to do every presidential election. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not giving you my opinions on anything else. They don't matter. Nobody wants to hear it. If you want to hear my opinions, let me know. I'll put out a show on politics and how we can learn together how the Senate works, how Congress works, how the local municipalities work, and what state governments look like. And we could do a whole educational show on government and politics so everybody's educated at the very least and we can learn and grow together. But that's not this show. And I'm really making a concerted effort to not voice my opinions on the political current events going on anymore. Like I said in the past, I don't like doing it. Doesn't make me feel good. And it alienates people. It's tough to empathize with people when I'm just talking to myself. I'm talking to a camera right now. I'm sitting in my house alone. So there's no back and forth with anybody to understand where they're coming from. I'm just spewing opinions, the lowest form of knowledge. And I don't like doing that. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't care who you voted for. I don't think less of you. I understand you have your reasons for who you voted for and why it was important to you, and I completely understand that. And you're absolutely entitled to those reasons. And if they're important to you, they're important. Even if I don't agree with them, that doesn't mean they're any less important. So with that, that's all I got. That's it. With that, very quickly, the big three, which is obviously pertinent here because we're talking about empathy and not being a shitty person, all that good stuff. Number one, exercise. What am I doing here? The 3 pillars to staying strong and being a healthier, kinder, happier, less stressed, more genuine human being and spreading that positivity and goodness to all those around you and throughout the land. Number one, exercise every day. Do one thing each day to improve your physical, mental, or emotional fitness and health and wellness. Number 2, the hardest one to do, and it goes exactly back to what we were just talking about. Don't be a shitty person, be a kind person. When the opportunity arises to be shitty and hateful and negative, take the LPDS step back and just omit yourself from the situation. It's very difficult to do. You can literally see it unfold in front of your eyes right now with all the responses on social media that are going on right now, the meltdowns, the braggadocious responses, the laughing and demeaning of people's feelings and opinions and thoughts and what's important to them. Because you're emotionally attached to those. And when your emotions are running high, your body gets into that sort of survival instinct, that fight or flight. Respond immediately. Respond to that. I feel a certain way. I need to respond in a way that gets my feelings back down to zero, back down to a standard operating level. I get it. But 99% of the time, the initial response you have, the initial emotional reaction you have, does not help the situation whatsoever. It makes it worse in the long term, and it makes you worse in the long term. So that's why it's so important to take that deep breath, take that LPDS step back to detach from your emotions and omit yourself from the situations. And you'll see it's not that serious. It's not it's not as bad as you think it is in reality most of the time. Most of the time. Also, real quick side note, if you're taking the time to set your phone up, hit record a meltdown or a braggadocious shit-talking reaction, and then put a caption, edit it, and put it out in the internet, in the stratosphere of the internet's, that's a problem. That's a mental health issue. That should be your red flag of like, I thought this was a good idea. I thought this was going to be healthy and needed, and people need to see this. I should probably get some serious help. And if you need help and you need help finding help, please reach out to me. I'm always here for you guys. Number 3, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And this is something I say it's the most important because along with number 2 of the big 3, I don't think enough people are actually taking the time to do this. And when you don't live in a state of gratitude, you start taking things for granted and you start thinking it's okay to respond to people in certain negative ways. So they all go hand in hand. Obviously, they're the big 3. They all go hand in hand. But take some time out of your day to think, at the very least, think of one good thing in your life or person or experience or whatever, and then think about what your life would be like without that. And how shitty your situation would be. And make the effort. It's a lot better if you take the time to think about that stuff and be grateful for the good things you have than to actually have to be without those good things. And now you're sitting there wishing you had them back, saying, damn it, my life was good before that thing, when I had that stuff. Now I don't have that stuff, and you're SOL, you're shit out of luck. But if you live in the gratitude and you actually take the time now when things are good to be grateful for the good stuff in your life, when bad stuff happens, you'll be able to handle it better. You'll be able to, you won't have to live with the regret of not being grateful for it, or with the regret of taking things for granted. You won't have to live with that regret, and that is an emotional weight off your shoulders that will allow you to handle those situations a lot better. And if you couple that with not being a shitty person and being a kind person, and you couple that with exercising every day to improve your physical, mental, and emotional fitness and health and wellness, I promise you guys, if you take the concerted effort each day, a little bit each day, I know some of you aren't doing it. You could tell who's not trying, at least. And you could tell the people who are trying. We're all going to fail. There are going to be a lot of times we fail. Hand up. My entire rant about the Yankees World Series was a failure of number 2 of the big 3. I was kicking myself in the ass as I was editing that episode, listening to myself just rail on Aaron Boone, so to speak, for his poor decisions, calling him names and stuff. And that was an absolute departure for number 2 of the big 3. So hand out, I failed all the time at stuff like this. But I promise you, if you make the effort and do it a little bit each and every day, you'll get better and better at it. And I promise you, you will be a better, happier, kinder, less stressed, healthier, more genuine human being. And you're going to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you. It'll be magnetic, and they'll spread that throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Put your notifications on. And hit that hotline, 202-670-1114. Call it in. Ask your questions. Do what you got to do. Just hit the hotline, 202-670-1114. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.